Let me paint a picture for you. You're a little kid. It's Friday and Halloween is this weekend. Your teacher, who is waiting out the clock herself, asks everyone who their favorite monster is. One kid says Dracula. Other says Wolfman. And then one kid in the back says Bigfoot. Now that don't quite sound right to you, but you think for a bit and say, yeah, okay, big hairy monster, close enough. Then your grandpa picks you up from school, and on the way home, he suggests that you stop for some fast food. Your heart skips a beat. McDonald's has those Halloween McNugget toys, but Taco Bell has those scary monster eyeball straws. But you end up going to Burger King and getting a glow-in-the-dark troll doll of the BK kids. You grimace for a bit, but eventually resign to the fact that, well, at least it glows in the dark. Close enough, I guess. And you know what? That's the same thing that's going through the mind of network programmers when they have to put together their October lineup. Oh, sure, there are lots of shows with Halloween episodes or specials, but some don't. So they gotta dig through and see which episodes will fit in with all the actual Halloween stuff. I mean, they never could really fool us, but let's take a look anyway at some of my favorite close enough Halloween specials. Now there are some rules. I won't talk about any shows with any actual Halloween specials or episodes. I would love to talk about the Dracula episode of Animaniacs, but technically they did have a Halloween episode a few years later with Slappy. They also have to be part of a series run. Like, I'm 75% sure that the Monsters in My Pocket animated pilot wasn't made as a Halloween special, but they released it as one when the series wasn't picked up. I could change that rule down the line, but for now I got plenty to work with. Also, let's not think of this as a ranking video, but more of starting at one end of a neighborhood and working our way around to the end, as I want to talk about different shows from different networks and different time periods. Okay, so let's start out with Superman, Hand of Fate. I remember seeing clips of this in the Kids WB Halloween promos all the time.
It's Super Spooky Afternoon, starting Monday on Kids WB.
A burglar steals an ancient tablet from a museum, which possesses him with a malevolent spirit.
Who are you? I am Coco!
Who then takes over the Daily Planet. And of course, being magic, Superman immediately hits a wall trying to fight him, and needs the help of another magic user. This one really threw me for a loop as a kid. I was expecting some spooky Halloween fun with Pooperman, and what I got was an introduction into body horror and ancient eldritch abominations straight out of Lovecraft.
Jimmy!
And of course, this miserable jackass.
I've moved beyond good and evil. But there are people trapped. I'm sorry. I truly am.
My hatred of this dollar store Doctor Strange was instilled by this episode.
Lorta cum terra.
You blew it!
But I still love it for its otherworldly atmosphere, for being an example of how Superman can't solve every problem, and for giving us this cute chubby goth girl.
Who are you?
My real name's Doris, but my elf friends call me Rainsong.
Okay, Tink. Back to Neverland.
Meanwhile, on UPN, before it had moved over to the WB, Pokemon was airing episodes like Maiden's Peak.
I'm waiting for you.
I'm waiting for you!
Ash and the gang come across a town that is in the middle of an end of summer, start of fall festival. Unfortunately, both Brock and James get bewitched by what appears to be the ghost of the Cliffside Maiden.
The woman in this painting perished over 2,000 years ago.
But it turns out just to be a Ghastly pulling some serious strings.
I enjoy keeping alive all the old legends, and if I do a good job of it, I make a few bucks as well.
It's weird that this ghastly can talk, shapeshift, and is impervious to attacks.
Go, Ekans!
A snake snatcher enemy is a mongoose.
Dinner time.
And apparently does all this as a favor to the real Cliffside Maiden.
Perhaps one day I'll meet the young man you love, and if I do, I'll remind him that his maiden still longs for him to return.
Thank you, and goodbye.
But again, a really creepy atmosphere in this one. And it's still surprising that they actually showed a cross in this episode.
Then how about this?
What's that?
It's a
Donut. Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
Also, honorable mention goes to the whole Psychic Showdown arc, in which Ash needs to enlist the aid of a haunter in order to defeat the truly terrifying Sabrina, a gym leader who turns their defeated opponents into dolls.
It's a long one. Haunted doll watch.
It's the only incident I could think of where a show has this whole Halloween arc. Let's continue with the most basic concept for a spooky episode idea, the haunted house. Because although they are great for Halloween episodes, it doesn't necessarily need to be Halloween to have a haunted house. And it just so happens there is literally a Ren and Stimpy short just called Haunted House.
Look, Ren, this looks like a great place to kill 12 minutes.
It's as bare bones as it gets. Ren and Stimpy seek shelter in a dilapidated house that just so happens to be haunted by a ghost, who wants to terrify them to death. I can list a dozen other cartoons with the exact same premise, but Ren and Stimpy make the list because of the overtop and grotesque nature of the episode.
Don't forget to wash where the sun don't shine.
There's something hilarious about this 1920s Cuphead ghost using 1980s horror tropes.
Wake up, you pigs!
I think the short has appeared on a bunch of VHS collections, although I think it might have been the censored versions. And of course, I don't think this got much airtime after its premiere.
I'm alive.
Killer.
Darkwing Duck did a similar thing with Fungus Among Us, but with a twist. It introduces DW's longtime love interest, Morgana Macabra, who starts out the series as a manipulative villain and slowly progresses into a rehabilitated heroine that tries to repurpose her magic for good, to middling effect.
Why? I wanted you to stay because of me, not because you were a zombie.
Gee, how thoughtful.
But in this, she's working with literal corporate ghouls.
Oh, really, darling? You're such a party pooper. We weren't gonna hurt him much.
To create a specimen of mushroom that actually stuffs itself with pizza ingredients. I forget if the plan is world domination or just capitalism.
Whoops, tautology!
Right away, Disney slapped this one on one of 3 VHS collector's sets. Wait, it was actually Ghoul of My Dreams that was on this tape? Why would they choose that one? This episode is so much better. Animation-wise, it's one of the best in the series. Done by that one Australian animation studio. You could totally tell by the style and dynamic poses and movements. If only that studio worked on All's Fahrenheit. But this is okay too. It got a super hot duck witch voiced by Kat Sose.
And now, with the city asleep, I'll finally be able to steal enough money to pay off my student loans.
Oh, an honorable mention goes to Hot Spells, an episode that was released on Halloween, but was later taken out of the rotation because it had the devil as a villain. I mean, he's clearly the bad guy. Why would you do that?
What does your shirt say? Satan rules?
Oh well, that's not a Halloween episode anyway, and I still got to talk about these VHSs, which again only had one actual Halloween cartoon on them.
Where was the off-ramp that said the Twilight Zone?
Speaking of Eye of Newt, let's talk about the Fox Kids foreign studio produced Ned's Newt, a show about a boy with a pet newt that would transform with the help of special pet food.
It looks like Frankenstein, but he doesn't really exist, does he?
Hey, you're talking to a 6-foot Newt who can do this. Face it, the reality level here is a mite thin.
Newt was another one of those frenetic, transforming improv artists, in the same vein as Genie or The Mask, that dominated the late 90s.
You heard Andy! Everybody stay totally calm!
To reach total calm, you must align your chakras and focus on your crystal. It also helps to be a total barking nutcase.
One segment was called Fright Night, and it's pretty weird, because at first it just sounds like it's a monster movie marathon. But everyone seems to refer to it like it's an actual holiday.
Felix, you're such a wag. Have a safe, scary Fright Night, everyone.
People even dress up and go to parties.
You tricksters, sending Frank to check on your son, then giving us the Fright Night of the century.
It's a Halloween episode in every way except in the name. By the way, this is the show that inspired me to make this list, because I never felt right putting it on a proper weirdest Halloween list, but I've always wanted to talk about it. I should also mention that this is a German co-production, so maybe this is Halloween in Europe?
Ugh, he just pulled off the Wolfman's head. It's too hairy to go straight. Now he's looking for a smooth, unhairy human head.
Can't roll this, Hopeless.
Whoa, is that blackface, dude?
You may have noticed a distinct lack of adult animation on this list. Well, let's remedy that with my favorite foul-mouthed fowl.
Humna humna ha-wah! If those puppies are for sale, I want the one with the brown nose. I love that gag.
As do we all.
Duckman and Cornfed in the Haunted Plumbers Society finds the detective duo needing to supplement their income by becoming nighttime plumbers.
They say they're from A. All right, come on, we don't even have a plot yet.
And who could have guessed that on their first job they would have stumbled upon a caper involving the disappearance of a supposedly cursed diamond?
Oh, I suppose you could find some peasant who would say the diamond is cursed, that its very presence can unleash the ghastly spirits of its former owners, vowing to return to Earth to torment any who dare to possess it. Now we got a plot.
What makes this so good is that it's a big send-up to those classic horror comedies, in the same vein as those Abbott and Costello crossover movies.
Say, are you a man or a mouse?
I'm more of a flea.
Flea?
If you say so.
It's got a lot of great laughs and a genuinely spooky atmosphere. And speaking of crossovers, there's one at the tail end that seems to just come out of left field. That is until you realize that Class B Kupo worked on the first 3 seasons of The Simpsons. You know, the ones with the actually good animation.
What the hell are you staring at?
Speaking of, take a look at this modern example of a last-minute Halloween rebranding. YouTube may be full of junk kid videos, but there are some really good channels out there. One of those is Zig and Sharko, a French cartoon that I personally feel more than any captures the spirit of the old-fashioned chase cartoons. I can't recommend it enough. Although if I recommend it too much, the studio will actually throw a pissy fit about it. And you could totally tell this is a Halloween episode because they say so with all the emojis in the title. Actually, it's just another one of Zig's schemes to eat Maria the mermaid. After watching scary movies, Zig gets the idea to dress up as a vampire to scare Maria and her boyfriend Sharko into absolute submission. My favorite bit is when they throw distractions at Count Zig to try and wait out the sunrise. Also, there's like a ghost episode and a zombie episode. Check out the library. Super atmospheric, super funny. Totally check it out. Cartoon Network is actually one of the most Halloween-friendly channels I can think of, in that almost every one of their original series has produced some sort of full-blown Halloween special, with a few exceptions. Oddly enough, the shows that Genndy Tartakovsky worked on. It's weird, I don't think he's actually worked on anything related to Halloween, but has done some great Halloween-like stuff. Dexter's Lab has Filet of Soul, Powerpuff Girls, Boogie Nights. Symbiotic Titan has Scary Mary. Primal even has the Bat and Evil Dead tribute episode. Even Sony's tentpole franchise, Hotel Transylvania, isn't strictly Halloween. But if you want something that's actually like scary, then there is Jack and the Zombies. This episode starts with an amazing build-up, with Aku tricking Jack into heading into the direction of a giant necropolis of graves, where he's attacked by zombie warriors, screeching ghouls, and a demon hag.
I will eat your soul!
Like, this is actually menacing, and showcases just how Aku is the master of manipulation. And I should actually stop with the special mentions, because at this point I'll have enough for another list one day. But let's just say that this one makes the list above the other ones, because graveyards are cool and spooky.
Oh, samurai, where are you? You can run, but you cannot hide, 'cause I can smell your blood.
Ah, the good old days.
One thing you could say for the good old days, it's got plenty of atmosphere.
Moville Mysteries was a Nelvana animated series that unfortunately never made it to the States, which is insane because this show is fantastic. It's perfectly reminiscent of shows like Goosebumps, Afraid of the Dark, and Erie, Indiana. And it wasn't afraid to get dark.
Who are you? What do you want? No!
He was a jackass.
And it was also starring Frank Muniz as the title character, Mo.
Here's where it gets weird.
So how does a show like this not have a Halloween special? And also, why would I put a show like this on the list if practically every episode could take place on Halloween? Easy. By having one so close to a Halloween episode that it's actually frustrating.
I'm sure this is where I left it.
Left what?
That!
The episode starts with Mo carving a jack-o'-lantern, but not for Halloween, while his grandma talks about what passed as treats when she was a kid.
We can toast the seeds in the oven with a little salt. That was one of my favorite treats when I was a girl. Of course, back in the good old days, we didn't have all the fancy candies and chocolate bars like you kids have today.
See, it's just for a scarecrow. That's weird. I mean, it's gonna be like mush in a couple of weeks, right? The actual episode revolves around Mo being sent back in time to help his kid grandma fight the curse of a headless horseman scarecrow with a weed whacker. I did it. I worked in Sleepy Hollow, which ironically also did not take place during Halloween in the original book. Speaking of time, I find it very hard to believe that Halloween didn't make it to the year 3000. Like, I can understand Mother's Day and V-Day and Christmas, since those are all promoted by hyper-capitalists. But I mean, so is Halloween. I'm surprised it didn't morph into Slutty Costume Day, sponsored by Spencer's. I think it's because Futurama was so steeped in science fiction that anything supernatural would feel at odds with the setting, which is actually highlighted in this episode.
Are you any closer to understanding the mystery of how a robot walks or talks?
Yes, the circuit diagram is right here.
I choose to believe what I was programmed to believe.
But the honking comes close enough, with Bender being infected by the Curse of a Werecar program. The whole episode is just wonderfully macabre, from Bender transforming into a bloodthirsty antique that actually has to touch the ground.
It crept along the ground on round rubber feet, like a wolf!
To the factory where they made the original Devil Car. But if anything, it's the opening that goes way too hard, with Bender inheriting a castle haunted by robot ghosts.
These robots were buried in improperly shielded coffins. Their programming leaked into the castle's wiring through this old abandoned modem, allowing them to project themselves as holograms.
Of course! It was so obvious!
Despite this explanation, I think it's even creepier that robots are capable of connecting their consciousnesses together after their bodies have lost functionality. Like, did the wires grow towards the router? Also, this episode still has some of my favorite lines in the entire series.
What does it mean?
It's just gibberish. 10100111010. Ah!
I have slightly conflicting opinions on glitch techs. On one hand, the Netflix Nickelodeon joint has some awesome designs, top-notch animation, good humor, and individual stories are often intriguing. It's just the premise as a whole. Like, if I found out a game company was using miners to clean up their defective and dangerous products, I would have a few concerns and questions that I would probably already know the answer to. But this is not only a fantastic Close Enough Halloween special, it's one of the best episodes of the series.
What's he waiting for?
The dialogue!
It's a pretty unique one, too. Usually a character just escapes from the game, and the techs have to catch it. This glitch actually projects the game environment around itself, basically trapping our heroes in a Metrovania-style game.
You don't need to loot every torch.
Yes, I do.
Filled with ghosts and ghouls and other awesome apparitions. My favorite part is when Miko completely goes fangirl over the main villain.
You will enjoy everlasting life.
Again, bright, atmospheric, very high on my list for replayability.
Who does you think you are?
Well, it's getting late, and it looks like there's only one more house on the block. Old man Deke. You gave us Ghostbusters, but you also gave us Ghostbusters, and Ghostbusters. And also the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, which had both a Dracula parody and a Frankenstein parody. And oh boy, were these titles direct to the point. They're basically both the same thing. Koopa shows up, and he's a vampire. And Koopa shows up, and he's Frankenstein. Can you guess what the Christmas special was about? I wanted to include something from Deke Studios since they were such a huge part of my childhood. But this is just kinda lackluster. Even the VHS boxes that these episodes came in just kinda phoned it in. Although the wraparound segments were spooktacularly cool. Mario and Luigi hunt Dracula, which I guess makes it a kind of a Castlevania crossover? As an adult, I have way more appreciation for these segments than I did as a kid.
Oh, joy! There's my first phone call now. Hello?
Help! Help!
Well, that's it. I guess it's time to just call it a year. There doesn't seem to be any Oh, wait. What's this? Oh my god, they're doing Trunk or Treat in front of the old, early 2000s Disney's weekday lineup trailer park. And what are they giving out? Oh my goodness, it's fistfuls of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. This show had a bunch of great spooky episodes, and most of which led to a huge series villain team-up. Revenge of the Monsters is basically a monster mash of different characters introduced earlier in the series. Nosferatu was a robot vampire invented by Zurg to take over Star Command by creating robotic slaves.
Makes an entrance, you gotta give him that.
He becomes a recurring villain throughout the whole series, including the episode where he bites a space ranger, Ty Parsec, on a radioactive moon, turning him into a wire wolf. It's like a werewolf, except with wires. By the way, I think they aired all of this out of order, like syndicated Disney usually does. So the episode that actually explains the origins of the wire wolf may have aired after his first appearance. Which, if you've actually seen the episode, and know how Parsec is always getting the second banana, is kind of hilarious.
Maybe I'll transfer to Alpha Centauri. No one ever finds that place.
And finally we have XL, the prototype of XR. In the show, he's always stealing parts to try and outdo XR and get revenge on Star Command, making him the equivalent of a Frankenstein monster.
We just happened to be in the quadrant, so we thought we'd stop by and take over!
The series also had a mummy villain, if you can believe it, but they jumped the gun and made this episode way before that one. Shame. If they had like a swamp monster alien, they could have had themselves a true monster mash. As it stands, this is a great episode that celebrates the series as a whole. And I swear one year they aired all the episodes leading up to this one on Halloween, in order on Toon Disney. That truly was a Halloween that was out of this world.
Care to make it a threesome?
Boy, what a haul this year. I hope you enjoyed this little detour. Oh, and don't worry, I'm not running out of actual weirdest Halloween specials to look at. They make more of them year after year. Like the Lego Star Wars Halloween special. The title alone cinches it for the list. Truth be told, I actually made this list last year, but I didn't have a chance to make it. Oh well. You know Halloween is like on Monday this year, right? So I'm sure everyone's going to be actually partying on Saturday, recovering on Sunday, and having like a cupcake on Monday or something.
Then the real nightmare begins.
So in that spirit, happy close enough Halloween, everybody.